1945, an American scientist named Vannevar Bush wrote an article in the Atlantic Monthly titled As We May Think. Here he theorized a device that could hypothetically compress and store all of their books, records, and communications on reels of microfilms. He called it the Memex. 1960, the first hypertext project was founded by a young IT pioneer by the name of Theodore Holm Nelson. He called it Project Xanadu. Later on, in 1965, Nelson wrote the paper Complex Information Processing, a file structure for the complex, the changing, and the indeterminate, and presented it at the ACM National Conference, in which he coined the term hypertext. 1962, inspired by the article that Bush wrote, Douglas Carr Engelbart, an American engineer and inventor, started working on his Augment project and presented the idea of developing computer tools to augment human capabilities and productivity. This project later gave birth to the Computer Collaboration System, Online System, or NLS. 1968, NLS development moved to an SDS-940 computer running the Berkeley time-sharing system, and later demonstrated by Engelbart to a large audience at the Fall Joint Computer Conference in San Francisco. The event demonstrated groundbreaking features of the NLS, which involved the assembly of some remarkable state-of-the-art video technologies and a handheld pointing device that controls the system of a computer called the mouse, that has been developed since 1960. Since then, the event has been dubbed the mother of all demos. 1973. In 1970, a group of researchers at Xerox Palo Alto Research Center dedicated themselves to performing research about digital technology, which leads to the development of Alto. The Xerox Alto is a computer designed from its inception to support an operating system based on a graphical user interface. Later, using the desktop metaphor, the first machines were introduced on March 1, 1973, a decade before mass-market GUI machines became available. 1983. Back in 1978, Steve Jobs, an American entrepreneur and developer on Apple, started the development of one of the first personal computers to present a graphical user interface in a machine aimed in individual business users. The Apple Lisa, named after Jobs' daughter Lisa, introduced in 1983, the Apple Lisa was a personal computer that uses the GUI system as a way of improving the device interface with its user. The device was later considered a commercial failure for its high price and insufficient software. 1984. After Lisa was developed, Steve Jobs was forced out of the Lisa project by Apple's board of directors. Because of that, he appropriated the Macintosh project from Jeff Raskin. The first Macintosh, unveiled in 1984, was the first successful mass-market all-in-one personal computer with a graphical user interface, built-in screen, and mouse. It was pivotal in starting the desktop publishing revolution. It had an all-in-one design and pioneered the graphical user interface. 1990, Microsoft Windows launched Windows 3.0. It features a new graphical user interface where applications are represented as clickable icons, as opposed to the list of file names seen in its predecessors. It is the first version of Windows to perform well both critically and commercially. Critics and users considered its GUI to be a challenger to those of Apple Macintosh.
World Wide Web WWW 1990 is the leading information retrieval service of the Internet, the Worldwide Computer Network. The development of the World Wide Web began in 1989 by Tim Berners-Lee and his colleagues at CERN. They created a protocol called Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTP, which standardized communication between servers and clients. Their text-based web browser was made available for general release in January 1992. The World Wide Web gained rapid acceptance with the creation of a web browser called Mosaic, which was developed in the United States by Mark Andreessen and others at the University of Illinois and was released in September 1993. Mosaic allowed people using the web to use the same sort of point-and-click graphical manipulation that had been available on personal computers for some years. By the mid-1990s, the World Wide Web had millions of active users. Current literature on the social impact of hypertext has focused largely on the similarities between hypertext and the concept of the postmodern text as defined by Bernays, Bakhtin, Derrida, and Foucault. By claiming that hypertext accurately realizes the shape and the role of the postmodern text, researchers claim also to be able to assess the possible social impact of hypertext. Yet, much of the literature also relies on a perspective on the links between technology and society, informed almost entirely by a form of technological determinism, based on technicist readings of the development of written discourse. The growth in the use of distributed computing and the continuing increase in the number and scope of applications available for user of personal computers results in an environment in which there is an ongoing role for user groups. Computer users are becoming increasingly independent and require appropriate mechanisms to support them as they learn to use new technologies and new systems. Within organizations, computer centers can provide some support of users but cannot necessarily be expected to be experts in the finer application of all systems used by all employees. In circumstances such as these, user groups can offer an extra support mechanisms. Additionally, computer users offer support to computer users who are self-employed or who used their computer systems outside of the workplace. Symbolic's Document Examiner was an example of hypertext meeting the real world since it saw real used by real customers. But the Symbolics was a fairly specialized artificial intelligence workstation and was very expensive when the Document Examiner was first introduced. So even though it counts as the first real-world use of hypertext, it was not a widely distributed and known system. We can say that hypertext was conceived in 1945, born in the 1960s, slowly nurtured in the 1970s, and finally entered in the real world in the 1980s, with especially rapid growth after 1985, culminating in a fully established field during 1989. We now have several real-world systems that anybody can buy in their local computer store or get for free bundled with their computer. We have successful conferences and a journal, and most important of all, we have many examples of the actual use of hypertext for real projects.